Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the premium public video discussion for NYNJPA weather, Fire Island and beyond, and of course Weather Concierge. Usually with these storms, just in case you didn't know, I like to combine the last video ahead of these storms as kind of a wrap up. You really don't need the model guidance anymore, at least you shouldn't. And you have the storm right in front of you. We'll go over the observations, go over the details, and focus on the storm impacts. For not only the northern mid-Atlantic, of course there will be a focus on the New York City and Philadelphia metropolitan areas, but all of the Northeast from New England on south through the mid-Atlantic into the Washington, D.C. metro. And right now, over the Washington, D.C. metro, we are seeing areas of snow. I've been seeing throughout Twitter and social media observations of snow actually starting to accumulate on roadways over the western suburbs of Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. That precipitation is very interesting because what you have is that the leading edge here, right here, is not reaching the ground. It's what we call virga. Basically what's happening is that the precipitation is falling through a lot of dry air. I've been pointing this out for the past couple of days and on up to the approach of the storm on the model guidance, and also last night and this morning on the observations. This is a dry, cold air mass, especially for this time of year. And so as a result, when this precipitation initially moves in, first it will evaporate in the atmosphere. That evaporation causes cooling, which enhances what we call cold air damming, which I'll show in just a moment. So what we have here initially is you get, except for the immediate coast, say for the Delmarva Peninsula and Cape May, New Jersey, those locations where you already have temperatures throughout the atmosphere already above freezing as expected, most locations will start off with this mix of snow, sleet, rain, and of course, with us not having a winter storm yet so far this season, it's a little bit early for this time of year, you normally are not really prepared. So the primary concern here, especially for the major metropolitan areas this morning in Washington, D.C. and in Baltimore, and this afternoon and evening for Philadelphia on up to Boston, is going to be the fact that you're going to have this burst of heavy snow and sleet at the time when everyone's traveling, when quite frankly most people are not prepared for this situation. Meanwhile, over the interior, over portions of Pennsylvania, on down through West Virginia, you have that cold air locking in along and to the east of the Appalachians. So you have your cold air locked in over western Pennsylvania, over eastern West Virginia, over western Virginia where you have snow, sleet, and freezing rain. But once you get over the Appalachians, that warm air is winning out over the Ohio River Valley, leading to the precipitation to change over to rain. We see this very nicely here on the latest surface map here from the SPC. Totally free. Check it out, spc.org. NOAA.gov, sorry. This is the freezing line right now. Okay, and notice how it kind of dams in there because of this high pressure system building down out ahead of this low pressure system. But take a look at this. This is called the wet bulb. Now, the reason why I mentioned the dry air is that the atmosphere will cool when precipitation moves into that dry air. This is the maximum cooling that will take place. Now notice it basically remains to the south of Long Island, pushing through the Jersey Shore, cutting through the Delmarva Peninsula, and to the south of Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. This will push northward, of course, as the warm air will win out. But as our coastal low is lifting north, what's going to be interesting to watch is this cold air starts to get bottled up here over northern West Virginia, portions of Maryland, Pennsylvania, central Pennsylvania, especially on up through central New York. Watch out for this area right here for tonight. Because not only are you going to be dealing with wet, heavy snow, you're going to be dealing also with sleet and freezing rain mixing in back and forth. So you're going to get this mixing of a layer of ice and snow. Meanwhile, this heavy, wet snow will really get intense as we watch an upper level low start to approach the region. We'll get to that in a moment. On the latest WeatherTap radar, you can see what's happening here with our cold air damming. You can see snow showing up here. Again, this leading edge here is not reaching the ground. It's what we call virga, okay? But everything to the south of this line is reaching the ground and it's falling pretty heavy. And this is the beauty of a storm. This is our water vapor satellite picture. I always love using this tool. So let's break down all the features here. Here's our upper level low. This is going to be key for tonight on through tomorrow morning for the interior. We're talking about central Pennsylvania, up through the Poconos, central New York, the Catskills, and then up towards New England. This upper level low is going to have a little bit of mischief, and it's going to basically, I think it's going to surprise some people with a very impressive snow band at what we call a deformation zone trying to set up here. Something that we're going to have to watch out very carefully. Meanwhile, here's our coastal low here. So our upper level low is creating a whole bunch of lifting, okay? It's spreading out the atmosphere, okay? This is called divergence and diffluence here going on right here. Here's our coastal low that's setting up. You can see it's starting to, convection starting to pop up here right along the South Carolina and North Carolina coast. And as that's evolving, this upper level low is lifting to the north and east. Now, some might ask, if this storm was happening in mid-December, would it lead to more snow on the coast? And I'll answer that question right now. Not exactly, okay? You would have seen a change over to rain even if this was happening in the middle of January. And the reason why is that this high pressure system is departing a little bit too fast, and the upper level low is tracking over the Delmarva Peninsula, should I say over the Delaware River Valley tomorrow morning, and that's still going to allow some warm air transport along the coast. So it still would have led to a changeover, but perhaps a bit later in the game. At any rate, here's our coastal low starting to develop here. You can see that very nicely here on the surface map, and should I say the 850 millibar map. The influence of that coastal low is starting to take shape, and again you can see that also right here. Here's our coastal low right here taking shape. This will become what we call the primary low. It's starting to become the primary low, and that means that the low level cold air starts to get locked in over the interior, but still warms along the coast. Now, one thing that's very interesting at 850 millibars is how cold this upper level low is, okay? So you have your initial cold air and it's getting routed out by the warm air transport, which is somewhat developing, okay, right now this morning. This pocket of cold air will be traveling through the Ohio River Valley towards eastern Pennsylvania tonight, through the Delaware River Valley, through Long Island, and through portions of southern New England. That upper level low will what we call destabilize the atmosphere and drive cold air over the region. And we can also see that at 500 millibars, okay, very cold air. It's actually creating a lot of destabilization in the atmosphere, rising air. So that's why we're going with the potential for some very heavy snowfall over portions of central Pennsylvania, northeastern Pennsylvania, on up through central and eastern New York as this upper level low moves through. Now, as the upper level low moves through the Delaware River Valley tomorrow morning, it's going to start to weaken because of this disturbance back here, kind of kicking it right off the coast. So as it's moving through portions of southern New England tomorrow, it's going to weaken, and so the influences will not be as impressive as they will over southern New England and central New England as they will be over the northern Mid-Atlantic and central Pennsylvania, with a heavy snow band developing and marching to the northeast. And again, here's our infrared satellite picture. Very strong lifting starting to take shape here. Here's our coastal low starting to form, and there's our upper level low. Everything's pretty much coming together for an impressive winter storm. So now we have all the working parts, so let's dive into this forecast. We're going to use the National Weather Service forecast map here. It's usually just fine, especially at this point of the stage of the storm. Again, by this afternoon, our low pressure system is moving up along the Carolina coast. It's become the primary low. High pressure is departing. We're starting to see that wintry mix change over to rain right along the immediate coast, a little bit further inland along the cities, basically around I-95 on north and west. You got this wintry mix of snow, sleet, and rain, all mixing in, all snow further into the interior. Looking at temperatures slowly rising through the 30s, heading towards the 40s along the coast by the time we get to the late evening hours. Tonight, that low pressure system continues to lift north, Watch out for very strong winds from the Delmarva Peninsula on up through southern New England, ranging anywhere from 15 to 30 miles per hour with gusts over 40 miles per hour at times due to what we call a strong pressure gradient and some winds aloft being mixed down to the surface. Again, you got rain at this point right along the coast, a wintry mix further inland, and heavy wet snow over the interior. By midnight, that low pressure system tracks towards the Delaware Bay and heading towards the New Jersey coast. Again, very heavy rain along the coast. That warm air is winning the fight, but over the interior, you get a wintry mix of snow, sleet, and also very heavy snow back towards western New York as this whole storm lifts northward. By tomorrow morning, the low pressure system moves over Long Island. Everything starts to end from southwest to northeast, but watch out for that last band tomorrow morning between 4 a.m. and 8 a.m. from northeastern Pennsylvania on through the Hudson River Valley, through portions of east central New York, and into portions of northwestern Connecticut and Massachusetts. I think there's going to be the potential for a very impressive snow band to move through that could produce snowfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour. Something that we're definitely going to have to watch out for and happening right at the start of the morning rush hour. The rest of the region will see snow tapering off over New England by the time we get towards the afternoon hours, and we'll start to see improving conditions throughout the northern mid-Atlantic. So about noon for Washington, D.C. on up through New York City, you'll start to clear out and dry out. For portions of New England, look at more like around 5 p.m. everyone starts to dry out. Then back towards the west, you get the potential for some lake effect snow and a few flurries possible for the portions of the Poconos and portions of the Catskills back here as our lake effect snow briefly takes hold. By Saturday, high pressures in control, tranquil weather conditions with temperatures really, it's below normal, but it's not brutally cold, okay? We're talking about temperatures throughout the region in the northern mid-Atlantic ranging from the lower to mid 30s for lows and mid to upper 40s for highs. And the good news as we move forward through the holiday week, as we get ready for Thanksgiving, no major storms on the horizon after this storm with high pressure in control and seasonably cool temperatures expected. That is your forecast discussion for today. Thank you for following NYNJPA Weather, Weather Concierge, and of course Fire Island and beyond. I'm your meteorologist, Stephen DiMartino. Have a wonderful day and stay safe out there, especially this evening with the rush hour traffic.